Hi, thanks again for tuning in to Sin's Workshop. So I hope you are all having a great day. So today we're going to be talking about Nemesis and the Swan. Let me just grab my notebook here. So many reviews. Really should have grabbed this thing before. Here we go. Nemesis and the Swan by Lindsay K. Brandy. So this is an adult historical fiction novel. There is no fantasy in here at all. It's just historical fiction. It takes place in revolutionary France, with the guillotine killing off all the aristocrats. So it's really the dawn of the revolution here. People are coming into, the 99% basically are, fed up with the way the aristocracy has, the hierarchy. The rich have been abusing their power and have basically bankrupted the country. Oh gee, why does that sound so relevant to today's society? Oh, because it is. That's my 2 cents on that. In any case, it was a really good novel. It follows Hélène. I took 4 years of French class, and yeah, I have nothing to show for it. But that's only because the teacher really loved me, so I got away with writing my Harry Potter fanfiction. Yes, I wrote Harry Potter fanfiction. I shouldn't surprise anyone. I'm a super nerd. Slytherin mug, Slytherin tattoo, super Harry Potter nerd. Harry Potter charms right there. Sorry. But, 4 years of French, and I can't say her last name. I'm not even going to try. So it follows Hélène. She is part of the 1%. But she's part of the 1% that acknowledge that there needs to be change, that change is coming and it should be welcomed, that things do need to change in her country, because she's a girl. She's the daughter of a marquis, but she doesn't want to be in a loveless marriage like her parents, She doesn't want to be stuck in this sort of, society that says she has to marry rich for more money to keep the money flowing, and that's how her parents would have it. But instead she wants to marry a jeweler, a boy she's known all her life, who she's been in love with all her life. That's what she wants to do, and she's all for equality, and she really is. You see her ideals don't change. I know that was a long pause. You're like, is this the thing on? She seeks out change. She wants change. She welcomes change. She thinks change is great. Especially because she hates everything her family stands for, especially her mother. Her mother is very cruel. Her mother is not a nice person, and I hope we never really find out what happens to the rest of her family other than her father. When her father's estate is, invaded, I think this is something else, which I think is interesting. I love French history. I love French Revolution, which is part of why I took French class, more to learn about history rather than the language, which is probably why I not a lot stuck. But what I think is really cool is, sorry, I'm trying to see if my hair even looks even the slightest purple. Problem with black hair, when you try to color it, it doesn't really stick. But anyway, when you think of the French Revolution, you think of the rich getting their just desserts. But I think what's interesting about this novel is you're watching it through Helene's eyes, and she's an innocent in all this. And she's a young adult. She doesn't really have a voice So she isn't innocent because she's still finding herself. When her house is stormed, and she and her mother and some other close relatives and her fiance, who is a really old man, are forced to flee and hide in the catacombs, she just wants to know where her father is. And her father is not a bad person. He just doesn't know if change is possible. And when she finds him, he's dead. He's been hung, his hands and feet bound. And I think it says a lot about the French Revolution that there was a lot of bloodshed. I think it's really interesting how this novel sort of explores that. Because when you think of it, you just think, oh yeah, they got what they deserved for using the poor. Right. They did abuse the poor. They basically did bankrupt the country. They basically thought very little of the people beneath them. But I think we always need to take that step back and be like, some things maybe go too far. Was her father a good man? I think he was a good man. I think he was. I think what he's most guilty of is not doing enough for his servants. Because as you read the novel, he's actually very nice. He's very thoughtful. He's very somewhat contemporary. He is somewhat contemporary. He does bend a lot to. Oh, perfect example. If you've watched Once Upon a Time, he's like Virginia's father. Not Virginia. Sorry, I'm thinking of the 10th Kingdom. He's like Regina's father. Got my fairies tales mixed up for a second. He's like Regina's father, Henry. A good person, but doesn't do enough to stop the bad. And it's very sad what happens to him ultimately. And I think it's really interesting to see the French Revolution through the eyes of an innocent, because usually you think, oh yeah, they got what they deserved. Yeah, well, the monarchy did need to be disbanded. The hierarchy needed to be disbanded, But I think rage played a very strong. I think rage and anger played a lot here, historically speaking. So I thought that was interesting, that you get to see the eyes through, and I'm not the only one who thinks this, by the way. When she meets her fiance, the jeweler, when she meets his family, because she escapes Paris, but then she goes back because she's like, well, I need to know he's okay. I need to make sure he's okay. So she abandons her family and their safe comfort to go on her own. I think it's really empowering as far as the journey goes. She goes on a journey to find him. She finds his family, and a lot of heartbreaking stuff happens to her when she finally meets up with them. Her fiance is still alive, but things happened that are kind of keeping them apart. Even her, I think, uncle, not uncle-in-law, because they're not married, her fiance's uncle, he says, this is escalating. He's like, it'll either be war or, excuse me, sorry. He says it'll either be war or things will go back to the way they were. And she's like, but things shouldn't go back to the way they were. He's like, they shouldn't. That's not going to stop blood from shedding. So, and he's part of the 99%. So it was really interesting to see from both her point of view, the French Revolution unfold, and it was really cool to see this man who is all for change, but not really but doesn't really agree with the methods for change. You know what I mean? He didn't agree with the violence of it, which I liked. I liked that there was a lot of different interpretations, because, you know, she meets people who are also part of the revolution, who are like, vive la revolution, you know, who are all for empowerment and equality. I think it's really interesting. You know, you've got the people who don't care about the lengths that they're going to get these changes. You've got the people who do care about the lengths that they're going through. And then you've got her, Hélène. You've got the people who agree with change, but they're unsure of how to participate, you know, in the change. And I think it was really interesting to see these three sort of perspectives on the French Revolution as it unfolds. And mind you, every chapter starts, she's in prison. She's arrested at the end of chapter 1. So the entire novel is her sort of recounting her life and the events that led to her getting in prison. Now you're kind of wondering, why is she in prison? You know, was she a spy for the rich? Was she a spy for the revolution? Why is she imprisoned? You know, it's very unclear. It's not really revealed until the very end, and you're just like, ha, knew it. I think it was a very interesting story to read. It was a very interesting story to see unfold. It's not really action-packed, you know. It's character-driven. It is a character-driven novel. It does have high tension, high stakes, but it's more driven about Helene's journey from being someone who's the Marquis's daughter to not quite a revolutionary. She does agree with the revolution, but someone who just wants a nice quiet life with the jeweler that she loves. You know, it's very sweet. And she does come into herself. You know, she starts working at a bookstore. She wants to find her true origins, which may connect to an opera singer. I mean, there's a lot that happens. It is a journey of self-discovery. That's what this novel is ultimately. It's a journey. It's a journey of self-discovery for Hélène, and it's so interesting to see this journey unfold, because you're seeing her go from the meek daughter of the Marquis, who was just going to, unfortunately, live her life miserably if she ended up marrying this man who was 40 years her senior, at least, to a bookkeeper and someone who went to parlors to have sophisticated discussions about feminism, equality. You know, it's really interesting to see her journey. And I think if you are someone who likes, you know, character-driven novels, who like historical fiction, who like, you know, French Revolution type stories, you know, this is definitely something for you. There's no fantasy, there's some romance, but it's very minimal. Like I said, it's more about her journey. It's a character-driven story. And I think that's really the selling point here. You know, I think that's really important when you are telling a story. You can't lose focus of the characters. You know, you can't lose sight of their journey and who they are to who they become. A really good story has really good character development, in my opinion. I love character development. That's like key for me. So she grows, and it's interesting to see her grow. I liked it. It's not a fast-paced story, but the pacing is steady. So you're really engrossed in it. Like, you really want to know what's going to happen next, because you're like, what? No, this can't be happening. So you are engrossed in it, and it is like a really good read. You know, I kind of like flew right through it. I think I probably finished the novel in like 6 hours. Yeah, I think I read it in like 6 hours. It was really good. I thought it was exceptionally well written. I loved the character development, and I love French Revolution stories. And I think the perspectives of which the reader is seeing the French Revolution is also interesting and intriguing. So once again, this was The Nemesis and the Swan by Lindsay K. Brandy. There will be a link to buy the book in the description below on bookshop.org. I highly recommend bookshop.org because a percentage of all proceeds do go to supporting local bookstores, and I think they all need our support. If money's too tight, which I know for a lot of us it is, check out the book from your local library. Please support your local library. They are a great resource for your community. And please don't forget to support me by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.